Hey everyone, this is Lilly, and welcome to another episode of the podcast where we dive deep into everything English learning. I'm so thrilled you're joining me today because what we're going to explore in the next hour is genuinely a game changer for your English journey. Seriously, I've watched so many people's confidence skyrocket once they understand what we're talking about today. So here's the thing. I get messages constantly from people saying things like, Lilly, I can speak English grammatically, I know tons of vocabulary, but I still feel slow when I talk, or I still have to translate in my head, or my personal favorite, why do I feel like I'm not a real English speaker yet? And you know what? These are such common struggles, and they all point to one core issue. Your brain is not naturally thinking in English yet, and that's exactly what we're fixing today. Now, I want you to understand something really important right from the start. The difference between someone who speaks English as a learned language and someone who speaks it fluently, someone who sounds natural, someone who doesn't hesitate, isn't really about vocabulary size or grammar knowledge. It's something much more fundamental than that. It's about how your brain processes thoughts. When you wake up in the morning, what language does your inner voice speak? When you're making decisions, when you're feeling emotions, when you're noticing things around you, what language is your brain using? For most learners, it's still their native language, and that creates a delay, this invisible translator running in the background of your mind. And that translator, even though it's trying to help, is actually the bottleneck that keeps you from real fluency. But here's the exciting part. Your brain is incredibly adaptable, like genuinely incredible. It can be trained to think directly in English without that translation step. And when it does, everything changes. Your speaking becomes faster, your confidence multiplies, your accent improves, your grammar feels more natural, and honestly, you start to enjoy speaking English so much more because it stops feeling like work. This is what we're going to master together in this episode. I'm going to show you exactly how to retrain your brain's default thinking language, and I'm not talking about anything complicated or expensive or requiring hours of studying. These are practical techniques that work with your daily life, not against it. Some of them are so simple you'll wonder why nobody explained them this way before. Before we jump into the actual techniques, I think it's really helpful to understand a little bit about how your brain works when it comes to language learning. And I promise I'm not going to get all scientific and boring on you. This is just enough background to make the techniques make sense and to help you understand why they work. So when you were born and learned your native language, your brain wasn't consciously learning anything. Your parents weren't teaching you the past tense or spelling rules. You were just being surrounded by the language constantly. Your brain heard it, absorbed it, patterns started forming, and eventually those patterns became automatic. When you wanted to say something, you didn't think about the grammar. You just spoke. It came naturally. That automaticity, that natural flow, is what we want to recreate with English. But here's the challenge. You're learning it as an adult, probably not surrounded by it constantly, and your brain already has really strong pathways built for your native language. When you try to speak English, your brain's first instinct is to think in your native language because that's the highway it's been driving on for years. English is still the small dirt road that requires more attention and effort. The good news is that your brain can build new highways. It's called neuroplasticity, and it basically means your brain physically changes based on what you practice. When you repeat something consistently, you're literally strengthening certain neural connections. The more you think in English, the stronger those pathways become and the easier it gets. Eventually, thinking in English can become just as automatic as thinking in your native language. This is why translation-based learning has a ceiling. If you keep translating from your native language to English every time you want to speak, you're reinforcing those old pathways. You're strengthening the habit of thinking in your native language first. To break through to real fluency, you need to bypass the translation step entirely. You need to train your brain to form thoughts directly in English. And this is actually a relief when you really think about it. It means you don't need to memorize more grammar rules or learn more vocabulary words, though those things help. What you need is consistent practice thinking in English, and that's something you can do for free, anywhere, anytime, while you're eating breakfast, waiting for the bus, exercising, doing chores. Every moment becomes an opportunity. The other important thing to understand is that your brain is looking for patterns and efficiency. It wants to take shortcuts. So when you repeat the same thought structure over and over, your brain starts recognizing the pattern, predicting what comes next, and it becomes more automatic. This is why some simple sentence structures feel so natural, even to beginner learners. You've heard them a million times, so your brain has strong patterns for them. We're going to use this understanding to deliberately create the patterns we want. We're going to practice thinking the same kinds of thoughts over and over so your brain recognizes the patterns and makes them automatic. We're going to practice in situations that actually matter to your life so your brain can apply what it learns immediately. And we're going to do it consistently so those neural pathways keep getting stronger. Okay, so let's get into the actual techniques, and we're going to start with the foundation. This is where everything begins, and it's actually so simple that you might underestimate it, but please don't. This is the building block that makes everything else easier. The foundation is learning to label your world in English. And when I say label, I don't necessarily mean putting physical labels on things, though some people do that and it can help. What I mean is developing the habit of naming things you see and interact with in English instead of in your native language. This sounds almost too simple, right? But it's transformative. Here's why. Language is connected to perception. The more you use a word, the more that word becomes the default name for that object in your mind. Right now, when you see your phone, your brain probably thinks of it in your native language first. Your native language is the default label. But what if every single time you see your phone, you think phone in English instead? What if every time you see a door, you think door? What if every time you see the sky, you think sky? At first, this requires conscious effort. You have to deliberately choose to think of the English word. But remember what we learned about neuroplasticity? The more you do this, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, you won't have to think about it. Your brain will just automatically label things in English because you've reinforced that pathway so many times. This is why I want you to start your day with this practice. The moment you wake up, before you do anything else, start labeling things. You're lying in bed and you see your pillow. Think pillow. You see your blanket. Think blanket. You reach over and grab your phone. Think phone. Your feet touch the cold floor. Think floor. You're getting out of bed. This might seem incredibly basic, and you know what? It is, but that's exactly why it works. The more specific you can be, the better. Don't just think furniture. Think bed, nightstand, lamp, closet. Your brain loves specificity. It helps create stronger neural connections. So as you move through your day, keep labeling. You're in the bathroom now. You see the sink, the mirror, the shower, the towel. You're opening the medicine cabinet. You're picking up your toothbrush. Every single thing has an English name, and you're training your brain to use those names. Now here's a next level step. Start combining labels into simple sentences. Don't just think door. Think I'm opening the door. Don't just think toothbrush. Think I'm brushing my teeth. Don't just think kitchen. Think I'm walking into the kitchen. You're not just labeling individual objects anymore. You're creating simple English thoughts about your actions. This is where it starts to get interesting because now you're not just building vocabulary, you're building sentence structure. Your brain is learning how to string together simple thoughts in English. And these aren't theoretical sentences from a textbook. These are thoughts about your actual life happening right now. Your brain immediately understands the meaning because you're doing the action at the same time you're thinking about it in English. Let me give you a real example of how a morning might go if you're doing this practice. You wake up, you think, I'm waking up. You stretch, you think, I'm stretching. You think, my legs feel stiff. You stand up. You think, I'm standing up. You look out the window. You think, the sun's shining, or it's cloudy today. You think, I can see trees. You think, there are cars on the street. You walk to the bathroom. You think, I'm walking to the bathroom. You turn on the shower. You think, I'm turning on the shower. You think, the water is hot. Do you see how this works? You're not learning isolated vocabulary. You're building an entire framework of how to think about your daily life in English. And because you're doing these thoughts multiple times a day, every single day, your brain is getting incredibly strong at this. The patterns are getting reinforced constantly. Once you're comfortable with labeling and creating simple sentences, we move to the next level, which is narrating your daily life in English. This is where your inner monologue starts becoming your English teacher. And this is honestly one of the most powerful techniques because you get to practice constantly without any extra time commitment. Narration is when you're describing what's happening around you and what you're doing in real time in English. It's like you're the narrator of your own movie, and the movie is your life. At first, you'll do this consciously. You'll have to actively choose to narrate, but over time, it becomes automatic. Your brain just naturally starts narrating. So let's talk about how to do this. You're sitting down to have breakfast. Start narrating. I'm sitting at the table. I have a cup of coffee in front of me. The coffee is hot. I'm taking a sip. It tastes good. I'm picking up a piece of toast. There's butter and jam on it. I'm taking a bite. It's delicious. Simple sentences, nothing complicated, just describing what's actually happening. Or you're at the grocery store. I'm walking down the aisle. I see the cereal section. I'm looking for the cereal I usually buy. I found it. I'm taking a box from the shelf. I'm putting it in my cart. Now I'm walking to the produce section. I see apples, bananas, oranges. I'm picking up some apples. They feel fresh. I think they're a good price. I'm putting them in my cart. The key here is to keep the sentences simple and present-focused. You're describing what's happening right now, what you're seeing, what you're doing, how things feel. This is much easier than trying to think about complex ideas because you have the actual scene in front of you to reference. And here's something really important. Don't worry about perfect grammar right now. If you naturally think, I picking up apple instead of I'm picking up an apple, that's fine. Your goal at this stage is fluency, not perfection. Your brain will naturally correct the grammar as the patterns become stronger. You'd be amazed how much grammar gets internalized just through hearing and using the language naturally. Let me give you another example. You're commuting on the bus. I'm standing in the bus. There are many people here. The bus is crowded. A man is sitting next to the window. A woman is standing near me. She has a big bag. The bus is moving slowly. I think there's traffic today. I can see cars outside. The street is busy. I need to get off at the next stop. I'm waiting for my stop. I see the sign. This is my stop. I'm pushing the button. I'm walking to the door. The bus is stopping. I'm getting off. Or maybe you're working out. I'm at the gym now. I'm walking to the treadmill. It's free. I'm getting on it. I'm adjusting the speed. The machine is starting. I'm running now. My heart is beating fast. My legs are feeling strong. I've been running for 5 minutes. I'm sweating. The gym is warm. I can see other people exercising. There's music playing. It's helping me run faster. I'm feeling good about my workout. Now, I want to mention something important. At first, you'll probably find narration slow and effortful. You'll be doing the action, then thinking the English, and it'll feel like everything moves in slow motion. That's completely normal. Your brain is working hard to form these thoughts. But here's what happens with consistent practice. You start doing the action, and the English thought comes up automatically at the same time. You stop having to consciously translate. It becomes natural. Some people like to narrate silently in their head, and that's perfect. But if you're in a situation where you're alone, consider speaking it out loud, just whispering the narration to yourself. Why? Because hearing your own voice saying the words creates an additional neural pathway. Your brain learns through multiple channels at once. You're seeing the action, thinking about it in English, hearing yourself say it in English. That's powerful reinforcement. Another tip, start with situations where there's already a natural language. Like when you're cooking, you're naturally thinking about steps. I'm cutting the vegetables. I'm heating the oil. I'm putting the vegetables in the pan. When you're getting ready for work, you're naturally thinking through your routine. I'm getting dressed. I'm choosing which shirt to wear. I'm putting on my shoes. These situations already have a narrative quality, so narrating them in English feels more natural. Okay, so we've been talking about narrating what's happening around you and what you're doing. Now let's talk about narrating what's happening inside you. This is internal dialogue and self-talk, and it's honestly where the real transformation happens. Your internal dialogue, your inner voice, is constantly running. You're making decisions, you're having reactions, you're talking to yourself about things, and for most people, all of that is happening in their native language. What if we could shift that to English? What if that constant internal conversation was in English? This is powerful because it's not just about language anymore. It's about how you experience your own thoughts. It's about your relationship with your own mind. And it's incredibly practical because you can do it anywhere, anytime, without anyone knowing you're practicing. Let's talk about decision-making first. Throughout your day, you're making small decisions constantly. What should I wear? Should I have coffee or tea? Should I call my friend now or later? Should I buy this? Should I go to the gym? These decisions are usually happening in your native language. You're internally debating, considering options, weighing pros and cons. What if all of that happened in English? Let's say you're standing in front of your closet deciding what to wear. Instead of thinking in your native language, you think in English. I have a meeting today. Should I wear the blue shirt or the gray one? The blue shirt is my favorite, but I wore it yesterday. The gray shirt is more professional. I think the gray shirt is better for a meeting. Yes, I'll wear that. Now I need to choose pants, black or blue. I think black is better. It matches the gray shirt nicely. Do you see what's happening? You're not just thinking about getting dressed. You're practicing English reasoning, English decision-making. Your brain is building patterns for how to think through problems in English. Or let's say you're at a restaurant looking at the menu. I'm hungry today. What do I want to eat? The pasta looks good. I like pasta, but I also want to try something new. The fish is a good choice. It looks fresh. The salad is healthy. I have been eating a lot of heavy food. Maybe I should choose the salad. Actually, maybe I'll have the fish. I haven't had fish in a while. Yes, the fish and a salad. That sounds perfect. The key is to make these internal dialogues realistic and personal. They should reflect actual thoughts you have, actual decisions you actually make. That's what makes them powerful. Now let's talk about reactions and emotions. Throughout your day, things happen that trigger emotional responses. Someone says something rude and you feel irritated. You accomplish something and you feel proud. You see something beautiful and you feel happy. You get bad news and you feel disappointed. What language are you processing those emotions in? I'm going to suggest that you start processing them in English, not instead of feeling them, but alongside feeling them. So someone cuts you off in traffic. Your first reaction is anger, but then you internally comment on it in English. That was rude. He didn't even look. I'm angry about that, but it doesn't matter. I'm safe. He's gone. I don't need to stay angry. Or you get some good news. You feel happy and excited. You think in English. That's amazing. I'm so happy. This is exactly what I wanted. I'm so excited. This does something really important. It helps you develop emotional vocabulary in English. It helps you learn how to express not just facts and actions, but feelings and reactions. And it helps your brain associate emotions with English, not just with your native language. Let me give you more examples. You're waiting for an important call. You're nervous. You think, I'm feeling anxious about this call. My heart is beating fast. I hope good news. This is important to me. I'm trying to stay calm. I know I'll handle it well. I just need to wait. Or you're lying in bed at night and you're reflecting on your day. You think, today was good. I worked hard. I accomplished my goals. I'm satisfied. My colleague was kind to me. I appreciate that. I'm feeling content. I'm ready for sleep now. The practice here is to catch yourself throughout the day and consciously shift your self-talk to English. When you're about to make a decision, think it through in English. When something happens that triggers an emotion, think about the emotion in English. When you're worried about something, express that worry in English. I'm worried about the presentation tomorrow. I've prepared well though. I think I'll do fine. I shouldn't be so nervous. This is especially powerful for building confidence, by the way. When you catch yourself having a negative thought or feeling doubt, you can counter it in English. I can't do this becomes, I can do this. I've done similar things before. I'm capable. That shift, just in English, makes it feel more powerful somehow. Your brain takes it more seriously when you externalize the thought. All right, so we've covered labeling things, narrating your actions, and doing internal dialogue. Now let's talk about a practice that's incredibly useful and also really versatile, describing your environment in English. This is where you take a moment to look around whatever space you're in and describe it in detail using English. You're building your ability to observe things carefully and express them in the language. This is especially useful if you're trying to reach fluency, because when you're actually speaking English with someone, you're often describing things: what you saw, what a place was like, what someone was wearing. This practice builds that muscle. Let's say you're sitting in a coffee shop. You describe what you see. I'm sitting by the window. The coffee shop is warm and cozy. There are wooden tables everywhere. I can see a counter at the front. The barista is making coffee. There's a line of people waiting. They look patient. I can hear the coffee machine. It's loud. There's soft music playing in the background. I can see a bookshelf on the wall. Books are stacked on it. There's a plant in the corner. It's green and healthy looking. Someone is working on a laptop near me. There's an older man reading a newspaper. The light from the window is bright. It's creating nice shadows on the floor. Or let's say you're in a park. The sky is beautiful today. It's clear and blue. There are only a few clouds. The sun is warm on my face. I can see green trees all around me. Some are very tall. There's a playground with children playing. I can hear them laughing. They're happy. There's a path where people are walking and jogging. A man is walking his dog. The dog is brown and fluffy. There's a fountain in the middle of the park. Water is coming out of it. It sounds nice and peaceful. I can see flowers. They're red and yellow. There's a bench where I'm sitting. It's comfortable. I feel relaxed in this environment. The reason this is powerful is multifaceted. First, you're practicing a wide range of vocabulary because you're describing many different things. You're using verbs, adjectives, nouns, colors, materials, positions, movements. Second, you're practicing observation skills, which is something you'll actually need when speaking English because people often ask you what something was like. Third, you're creating positive associations with English because you're usually describing things that are pleasant or at least interesting. Here's a variation that's especially fun. Imagine you're somewhere you've never been before and describe it as if you're seeing it for the first time. Let's say you're imagining you're in a foreign city. I just arrived in this new city. The buildings are so different from home. They're very tall and modern. The streets are busy with people. Everyone is moving quickly. There are cars and buses and bicycles everywhere. The air smells like different. Maybe it's the food from the restaurants. I can see stores with signs in a language I don't understand. There's a market with vendors selling fruit and vegetables. Colors are bright. There's music coming from somewhere. I see a big square with a fountain. People are sitting and relaxing. This city is fascinating. Or imagine you're describing a place from your childhood or somewhere you visited. I remember this beach from when I was young. The sand was golden and soft. The water was blue and warm. There were palm trees everywhere. They were tall and green. I remember seagulls flying around. They were loud. I could hear waves hitting the shore. It was such a beautiful sound. There were people swimming. Some were lying on the beach under umbrellas. The sky was so big and endless. I felt small and peaceful there. Another variation is to describe a familiar environment but force yourself to notice details you normally wouldn't notice. You're in your bedroom every single day, but how much do you actually observe? Try this. My bedroom is medium-sized. The walls are white. There's a bed against the wall with blue blankets. The blankets look comfortable. There's a window above the bed. I can see the street outside. My desk is opposite the bed. My computer is on the desk. There's a chair next to the desk. It's black and it rolls. There's a bookshelf on the wall. It has books, photos, and some plants. The floor is wood. There's a small rug in the middle. It's soft. There's a closet on the side. My clothes are hanging in it. The room is clean. It smells fresh. I feel comfortable in this space. The more you do this, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you can describe things without consciously thinking about it. Your brain automatically starts categorizing details and expressing them in English. Now we're going to talk about something that sounds a little bit silly at first, but I promise it's incredibly effective. We're going to practice imaginary conversations. This is where you imagine you're talking to someone and you have an entire conversation in your head, all in English. Here's why this is so powerful. When you're in a real conversation, you need to do multiple things at once. You need to understand what someone said, formulate a response, and say it, all in real time. If your brain is working hard to translate back and forth, you're not going to be fast enough. But when you practice imaginary conversations, you're building your ability to do this without the pressure of a real conversation. Your brain is getting trained to form responses quickly in English. The beautiful thing is that you can practice with scenarios that matter to you. Maybe you're nervous about job interviews, so you practice interview conversations. Maybe you want to travel, so you practice conversations with people at the airport or hotel. Maybe you want to make friends, so you practice casual conversations. Let me walk you through how to do this. First, pick a scenario. Let's say you're going to the dentist. You imagine the whole interaction. You walk into the office. The receptionist greets you. You imagine the conversation. "Good morning," the receptionist says. You respond, "Hi, I have an appointment at 10 o'clock. "What's your name?" the receptionist asks. "My name is Sarah," you say. "Thank you. The dentist will see you soon. Please have a seat." You sit down and wait. The dentist comes out. "Hi, Sarah. I'm Dr. Johnson. Please follow me." You follow and sit in the dental chair. "So what brings you here today?" the dentist asks. "I have a pain in my back tooth," you say. "It started a few days ago." "Let me take a look. Open your mouth, please." The dentist examines your tooth. "I see. You have a cavity. We need to fill it. Is that okay?" "Yes, that's fine. How long will it take?" "Maybe 30 minutes. It's not a complicated cavity." Do you see how you're practicing the language in a realistic context? You're learning how conversations flow naturally. You're learning how people ask questions and how you might respond. Here's another scenario. You're at a restaurant. A waiter comes to your table. "Good evening. What can I get for you?" "I'd like to start with an appetizer. What do you recommend?" "We have a nice shrimp appetizer. It's very popular." "Okay, I'll have that. And what would you like for the main course?" "I'll have the grilled salmon." "How would you like it cooked?" "Medium is perfect." "Would you like any sides?" Yes, rice and vegetables, please. And to drink? I'll have water with lemon. Great, I'll be back with your appetizer soon. Or you're meeting a friend for coffee. Hey, how are you? I'm good. How have you been? Pretty good. I've been busy with work. Yeah, I know how that is. Are you enjoying your job? Most of the time. Some days are more interesting than others. I totally understand. Do you want to grab lunch sometime? Yeah, that would be fun. How about next Saturday? Next Saturday works for me. Great. Let's meet at that new restaurant downtown. I've heard it's good. Perfect. I'm looking forward to it. The key is to imagine both sides of the conversation. You're the one speaking, but you also imagine what the other person says and your response to that. This forces your brain to think dynamically. You're not just memorizing a script, you're genuinely trying to have a conversation. Here's something that can make this even more powerful. Create scenarios that are slightly challenging for you. Not so hard that they're discouraging, but challenging enough that you have to think. Maybe it's dealing with a problem. I bought this shirt yesterday and I want to return it. It doesn't fit properly. Of course. Do you have your receipt? Yes, here it is. I can definitely help you. Do you want to exchange it for a different size or get a refund? I think I'll get a refund. No problem. Would you like to tell us why you're returning it? It's too small. Thank you. Let me process this for you. It will take just a moment. Your refund will appear in your account in a few days. Or you're in a situation where you need to ask for help. Excuse me, could you help me? Of course. What do you need? I'm looking for the main street. Oh, you're close. Go straight ahead and then turn left. It's at the end of that street. Thank you so much for helping me. You're welcome. Have a great day. The more you do this, the more your brain learns about how conversations actually work. You learn the patterns of questions and answers. You learn how native speakers structure their thoughts when they speak. You learn how to recover when you don't know a word or when you're confused. Here's my suggestion. Do at least one imaginary conversation every day. You can do it while you're walking, waiting, lying in bed, in the shower. It doesn't matter where or when. 5 minutes of imaginary conversation is incredibly valuable practice. All right, so let's talk about something that's not just useful for English learning, but also just fun to do. This is creating stories and narrative thinking in English. When you tell yourself a story, you're forcing your brain to create a beginning, middle, and end using only English vocabulary. You're practicing narrative structure, past tense, cause and effect, description, emotions, and dialogue all at the same time. It's actually one of the most complete forms of English thinking practice you can do. The beautiful thing is that the stories don't have to be complicated or long. They can be simple, everyday stories. They can be about people, animals, situations, anything. The goal is just to practice thinking and expressing ideas in a narrative form. Let me give you some examples. Here's a simple story. There was a girl named Maya. She was going to school. She was worried because she had a test today. She didn't study very much. When she got to school, she felt nervous. She sat down in the classroom. The teacher gave out the test. Maya looked at the questions. She was surprised because she knew all the answers. She had learned this material in class. It was easier than she thought. She finished the test quickly. She felt confident. When the teacher gave back the tests, Maya got an A. She was so happy. She learned that she was smarter than she thought. Or here's another one. One day, a man found a stray dog on the street. The dog was hungry and thin. The man felt sad for the dog. He decided to help. He took the dog to a restaurant. He bought some food for it. The dog ate quickly and hungrily. After eating, the dog looked healthier and happier. The man took the dog to his home. He gave the dog a bath. He found a clean bed for the dog. The dog lay down and slept peacefully. The next day, the man took the dog to the veterinarian. The doctor said the dog was healthy. The man decided to keep the dog. They became best friends. Now they go everywhere together. Here's why this is so powerful. When you tell a story, you're using so many different aspects of the language at once. You're using past tense, you're describing things, you're expressing emotions, you're showing cause and effect. Your brain is having to access a lot of different parts of the language simultaneously. Also, because stories are engaging and memorable, they're much more interesting to practice with than boring sentences. You're not just doing language drills, you're creating something. And stories often stick in your memory better, which means the language patterns in them are more likely to stick too. Here's another kind of story. You can tell a story about something that actually happened to you. I remember when I was a child, I went to the beach with my family. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining, the water was warm. I played in the sand. I built a sandcastle. My brother tried to knock it down, but I stopped him. We went swimming. The water was so much fun. We played games, we splashed each other. Later, we sat on the beach and ate watermelon. The watermelon was so sweet and refreshing. As the sun was setting, the sky turned pink and orange. It was so beautiful. I felt happy and peaceful. That's one of my favorite memories. The difference between this and just narrating your life is that here you're telling a complete story with a beginning and end. You're practicing how to talk about things that happened in the past, which is crucial for real conversations because people are always asking you about your experiences. Here's my challenge for you. Create a story every single day. Just 5 minutes. Pick any scenario. It could be something that happened, something you imagine, something silly, something serious. It doesn't matter. The goal is to keep your brain working in narrative form, in English. And here's a bonus tip. After you create a story in your mind, try to actually tell it to someone, a real person. It doesn't have to be a native speaker. It could be another English learner. Or if you're feeling brave, it could be a native speaker. You might be surprised how well you can tell that story because you've already practiced it so many times in your mind. Let's talk about something you're doing every single night anyway, and we're just going to repurpose it for English learning. This is memory recall and reflection. It's when you think back on your day and reflect on what happened, but you do it entirely in English. Most people do this naturally, but they do it in their native language. You're lying in bed and you're thinking about your day, replaying moments, thinking about conversations, reflecting on how you felt. What if you did all of that in English? This is incredibly valuable for several reasons. First, it gives you an opportunity to practice at the end of the day when you have time to really focus. Second, it's very natural because you're talking about your own experiences, so you understand the context deeply. Third, it's a great way to solidify memories because you're processing them in language. Fourth, it helps you recognize vocabulary gaps because you'll probably want to describe something and realize you don't know the word in English, so you can look it up and learn it. Here's how to do it. When you're getting ready for bed, instead of just collapsing and falling asleep, spend 5 or 10 minutes thinking about your day in English. Go through it chronologically. What happened first? What happened next? Try to remember as much detail as you can. For example, this morning I woke up at 7 a.m. I felt a bit tired because I didn't sleep very well. I got out of bed and went to the bathroom. I took a shower. The water was cold at first, but then it got warmer. I felt more awake after my shower. I got dressed. I had breakfast. I made coffee and toast with butter and jam. The breakfast was good. I sat at the table and checked my phone. I had some messages from my friends. I replied to one of them. Then continue through the day. After breakfast, I got ready for work. I picked up my bag and left the house. It was raining outside. I took an umbrella. The weather was gray and cold. I walked to the bus stop. I waited for the bus for about 5 minutes. When the bus came, it was crowded. I had to stand up. I was squished next to other people. It wasn't very comfortable. I also want to suggest that sometimes you can do this practice in the morning too. When you wake up, you can reflect on a previous day. Yesterday was interesting. I woke up later than usual. I had slept long. I was well rested. I felt good. Then reflect on your feelings and experiences. I remember I was nervous in the morning because I had a big meeting, but the meeting went well. I was happy about that. I learned something new at work. My colleague taught me a different way to do something. I felt grateful that she was patient with me. This reflection practice is also really useful for emotional processing. When you express how you felt about things that happened, you're learning to discuss emotions and experiences in English, which is so much of what real conversations are about. We touched on decision-making earlier, but I want to dive deeper into this because it's such a constant part of your day and such a rich opportunity for practice. Your brain is constantly making decisions, and every single one of those decisions is an opportunity to think in English. What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? What should I do first? Should I call someone or send a message? Should I buy this or not? Should I go left or right? Should I do this now or later? These aren't big life decisions. They're tiny, daily decisions that your brain makes constantly. The practice here is to start making these decisions in English. When you're faced with a choice, instead of deciding in your native language, take a moment and think through the decision in English. You're building your ability to reason and weigh options in English. Let me give you a detailed example. It's the weekend, and you're planning what to do. You think in English. It's Saturday. What should I do today? I could go to the gym. I need to exercise. My body feels stiff. Yes, the gym is a good idea. How long should I go? Maybe 1 hour. After the gym, I'm hungry. I should eat lunch. What should I eat? I could go to a restaurant, or I could make food at home. Making food at home is cheaper. I'll make food. What should I make? Pasta is easy. I like pasta. Or I could make a stir-fry with vegetables. I have vegetables in the fridge. The stir-fry is probably healthier. Okay, stir-fry. After lunch, should I rest or do something? I could read a book. I have a book I'm reading. Or I could watch a movie. I haven't watched a movie in a while. Or I could spend time outside. The weather looks good. I think I'll go to the park. I can sit and relax, or I can walk and exercise more. Maybe I'll do both. I'll go to the park, walk a little, and then sit and read my book. That's a good plan. Do you see how you're reasoning through your day in English? You're expressing the pros and cons of different options. You're explaining your choices to yourself. This is exactly how your brain needs to work when you're speaking English in real life. When someone asks you, what do you want to do? You need to be able to think through options and explain your choices. Here's another example. You're at a store and you see something you like. This jacket is nice. Do I need a new jacket? I already have 2 jackets at home, but this one is a different color. I like the color. How much is it? It's quite expensive. Is it worth the money? I don't know. I'll think about it. Maybe I should come back another day. If I still want it, I'll buy it. That's a good idea. Or I could check online if it's cheaper somewhere else. Yes, let me do that. I'll wait before I buy it. Or you're deciding whether to reach out to a friend. I haven't talked to Sarah in a long time. Should I call her? Yes, I should. What should I say? I'll just call and see how she's doing. Maybe we can meet for coffee. Will she be busy? I'm not sure. I'll call and find out. If she's busy, we can make plans for another time. I think I'll call her tomorrow. Or maybe I should call her now. No, it's late. Tomorrow is better. I'm excited to talk to her. This decision-making practice is especially powerful because it's training you to think at natural speed. You're not slowly translating. You're quickly weighing options and making a choice. Your brain is learning to move fast in English. Let's talk about something that's deeply personal and deeply important: expressing your emotions in English. Because real fluency isn't just about being able to talk about facts and logistics. It's about being able to express how you feel, what matters to you, and what you care about. Most people, when they're learning English, can talk about their job or describe a place, but they struggle to talk about their emotions. They struggle because they haven't practiced it. They haven't built the vocabulary and patterns for expressing feelings in English. So let's practice it together. Start by noticing your emotions throughout the day. Don't change them or judge them. Just notice them, and then express them in English. If you're feeling happy, say in English, "I'm happy. Something good happened today. My friend called me and we had a nice conversation. I feel warm and content. This is a good feeling." If you're feeling anxious or worried, express it. "I'm nervous right now. I have a presentation tomorrow. I'm worried I might forget what I want to say. My heart is beating a little faster. But I know I've prepared well. I'll do fine. I'm going to try to calm down." If you're feeling frustrated or irritated, express it. "I'm frustrated. Something didn't go the way I wanted. I made a mistake at work. I feel disappointed in myself. But everyone makes mistakes. I learned something. Next time, I'll be more careful." If you're feeling sad or disappointed, express it. "I'm sad. My friend had to move away. I'm going to miss them. We had wonderful memories together. I feel a bit lonely, but I'm grateful for the friendship we had. I can still stay in touch. I'm proud of myself. I accomplished something today that I didn't think I could do. I worked hard and it paid off. I feel confident. I feel good about my abilities." The reason this is so important is that emotions are huge in human communication. When someone is talking to you, they're usually sharing their feelings about something. They're expressing how they felt about an experience, or what they're worried about, or what excites them. If you can't discuss feelings, you're missing a huge part of real conversation. Here's something else. Expressing emotions in a language actually helps you process those emotions. When you put feelings into words, it gives them shape and clarity. Instead of just feeling overwhelmed, you can identify that you're feeling overwhelmed about something specific, and suddenly it feels more manageable. So I want you to start a practice where every evening you describe how you felt during the day. Not just what happened, but how you felt about it. "This morning, I felt rushed. I had to get ready quickly. I felt stressed. But once I got to work, I felt better. I like my job. Then there was a difficult conversation with someone, and I felt uncomfortable. But we sorted it out, and I felt relieved. During lunch, I felt hungry and ate a lot. I felt satisfied afterwards. In the afternoon, I was tired, but I pushed through. I felt a sense of accomplishment when I finished my tasks. Now I'm home, and I feel relaxed and peaceful." This practice builds emotional vocabulary in English. You're learning words like stressed, uncomfortable, relieved, accomplished, peaceful, and connecting them to real experiences. You're also building the habit of reflecting on your emotions, which is healthy for your mental well-being too. Now, let me talk about a really practical topic: using technology to support your thinking in English practice. Technology can be a huge help if you use it strategically. First, let's talk about changing your language settings. Change your phone to English. Change your computer to English. Change your social media to English. This might seem simple, but it's actually powerful. Every single time you use your device, you're seeing English. You're learning interface words, icons, notifications, all in English. Your brain is getting constant exposure. At first, it might be annoying. You might not understand what everything says. But here's what's cool. Your brain learns through context. You'll see a notification and you'll figure out what it means by context. You'll click on something and realize that word means that action. You're building vocabulary and understanding through actual usage, which is how languages are actually learned. Combine this with narrating your actions. You pick up your phone in English narration. I'm unlocking my phone. I see the home screen. I'm looking at the apps. I see the Messages app. I have 3 notifications. I'm clicking on Messages. I see 3 new messages. I'm reading the first one. It's from my friend. I'm going to reply. Or on your computer. I'm opening my web browser. I'm going to check my email. I see the email icon. I'm clicking on it. I'm logging in. My email is loading. I see 20 new messages. Some are important, some are not important. I'm looking at the important ones. I'm deleting the spam. I'm replying to an important message. Second, there are apps you can use. Language learning apps, sure, but also just regular apps in English. If you like music, listen to music and read the lyrics in English. If you like podcasts, listen to podcasts in English. If you like audiobooks, listen to audiobooks in English. The more you're surrounding yourself with English content, the more exposure your brain gets, the more patterns it learns. But here's the key. Don't just passively listen or read. Actively engage with the content. When you're listening to a podcast or audiobook, pause and narrate what you heard in your own words. When you're reading lyrics, translate your understanding back into your own thoughts. When you're reading something, try to guess what comes next before you read it. Active engagement creates stronger learning. Third, consider using voice recording. Some phones and apps let you record your voice. You could record yourself narrating your day, telling stories, having imaginary conversations out loud. Then listen back to yourself. This does two things. It helps you hear your own pronunciation, and it reinforces the English through hearing. Your brain learns through multiple pathways, so the more sensory involvement, the better. Fourth, use writing if you want to. I know we've been focusing on thinking in English, but writing can support that. Keep a simple journal where you write a few sentences each night about your day. Today was busy. I worked on a project. I was focused. I completed the project. I felt happy. After work, I went to the gym. I ran on the treadmill. My body felt strong. Now I'm home and I'm resting. Again, don't worry about perfect grammar or spelling. The goal is just to get your thoughts out in English. You're reinforcing the patterns and building confidence. One more tip about technology. Don't get overwhelmed by trying to use it perfectly. You don't need to completely immerse yourself in English overnight. Start with one thing. Maybe just change your phone language and narrate your actions. Or just listen to one English podcast a day. Or write 5 sentences in a journal. Build slowly and consistently. All right, so we've been talking a lot about thinking in English and practicing constantly, but let me address something important: vocabulary. You need vocabulary to think in English. So let's talk about how to build vocabulary in a way that actually sticks and that you can use in your thinking. The problem with traditional vocabulary learning is that you're learning isolated words. You see a word, you memorize a definition, and often you never use it again, so it doesn't stick. But when you learn vocabulary in context, when you use it in real situations, when you need it for actual thoughts you're having, it sticks so much better. Here's my approach. As you're practicing all of these thinking techniques, you're going to discover vocabulary gaps. You're going to want to describe something and realize you don't know the word in English. When that happens, that's the perfect moment to learn that word. For example, maybe you're narrating your day and you want to describe something, but you don't know the word. I'm cooking dinner and I don't know the word for this tool. It cuts things into small pieces. That's a grater. Now you know the word grater, and you know it in context. You know exactly when to use it because you were in that situation. Or you're doing an imaginary conversation, and you don't know how to explain something. I'm meeting a friend, and I want to say, I've been really tired because my sleep was bad. I sleep badly. That's not quite right. Actually, you might say, I haven't been sleeping well, or I've been having trouble sleeping. Now you have useful phrases for talking about sleep problems. Here's what I recommend. Keep a simple list, not a long, overwhelming list. Just keep track of words and phrases that you actually need. When you discover a gap, write it down, then look it up, and most importantly, use it. The next time you're in a similar situation, use that word in your thinking. Let me give you an example list of what this might look like. You're noticing vocabulary gaps, and you're keeping a simple list. Maybe it's annoyed, relieved, furious, persistent, fleeting, exhaustion, anticipation, discouraged. These are words you actually need because they describe things you actually feel or observe. You add them to your list. You look them up to understand their exact meaning. Then you deliberately use them in your thinking. I felt annoyed when my coworker interrupted me. I felt relieved when the meeting ended. I felt discouraged after my mistake. Or your list might be words related to your interests or your life. If you love cooking, your list might include sauté, blend, simmer, marinate, whisk. If you're interested in fitness, your list might include endurance, flexibility, strength, fatigue, momentum. If you love reading, your list might include captivating, plot twist, character development, compelling. The point is that you're building vocabulary that's personally relevant and that you're actively using. It's not abstract. It's connected to your actual interests and your actual life. Another strategy is to group vocabulary by situation. Create clusters of vocabulary related to common situations in your life. Maybe you need vocabulary for your job. Maybe you need vocabulary for hobbies. Maybe you need vocabulary for social situations. When you're in one of those situations, use that vocabulary in your thinking. Also, don't underestimate simple words and phrases. Native speakers, especially in casual conversation, use simple words and phrases over and over. Phrases like, "That's a good point," "I see what you mean," "Exactly," "I know what you mean," "Kind of," "Sort of," "Pretty much." These phrases are used constantly. Learning and using them will make you sound so much more natural. Okay, I want to address something that I know is holding back a lot of learners: the fear of making mistakes. This fear causes paralysis. It causes people to not practice. It causes people to freeze up when they try to speak. Here's what I want you to know. Mistakes in your internal thoughts, your private thinking, don't matter at all. Seriously, they don't matter. Nobody is judging you. It's just you and your brain. And your brain is actually incredibly smart at learning from mistakes. When you're thinking in English and you make a grammatical error, that's actually okay. In fact, it might be beneficial because your brain is testing things out, seeing what works, learning from trial and error. Native speakers learned their language this way as children, making mistakes constantly, and their brains naturally corrected themselves. So please give yourself permission to think imperfectly in English. You might think, "I'm going to the store," instead of "I'm going to the store," and that's absolutely fine. Your brain will learn the correct form eventually through repeated exposure and use. You don't have to be perfect. Also, when you're doing these thinking practices and you get stuck on a word or phrase, don't beat yourself up. You can do a few things. You can skip it and continue thinking about something else. You can use a similar word that you do know, or you can note that you need to learn that word and continue on. The goal here is fluency and confidence, not perfection. Fluency means you can think and speak smoothly, even if it's not perfect. Confidence means you believe in yourself and your ability to communicate. And here's something important. Even native speakers make mistakes. They use the wrong words sometimes, they pause and rephrase, they say and They're not perfect, so why would you hold yourself to a higher standard than native speakers? Also, the more you practice these thinking techniques without judgment, the more your brain relaxes about English. Your brain stops being so stressed and defensive. It opens up to learning. When you're constantly criticizing yourself and worrying about mistakes, your brain is in a stressed state and learning doesn't happen as well. But when you're relaxed and curious and allowing yourself to experiment, your brain is in a state where learning thrives. So make it a policy. You're allowed to make mistakes when you're thinking in English. You're practicing, you're learning. Mistakes are part of that process. All right, I want to talk about something that's actually more important than any specific technique we've discussed. I want to talk about consistency and habit building, because the truth is, any of these techniques will work if you do them consistently, but if you do them sporadically, you won't see the results. Your brain builds new neural pathways through repetition. You need to be using these thinking practices regularly, ideally every single day. Not for hours, you don't need hours, but consistently. Here's what works really well. Attach your English thinking practice to something you already do every day. This is called habit stacking. You already brush your teeth every morning. What if every morning when you're brushing your teeth, you narrate it in English? You already eat lunch every day. What if during lunch, you narrate everything you're doing and observing? Maybe it looks like this. When you wake up, spend 5 minutes labeling and narrating your morning routine. When you're commuting to work, spend those minutes describing what you see. During your lunch break, narrate your meal. Before bed, spend 10 minutes doing a memory recall of your day. That's maybe 30 minutes total throughout the day, and you're not adding extra time to your schedule. You're just doing things you're already doing, but doing them in English. Or you could use other structures. Maybe you set a timer for 5 minutes 3 times a day, and in those 5 minutes, you practice whichever technique feels right. Maybe Monday you focus on narration, Tuesday on imaginary conversations, Wednesday on storytelling, and so on. The key is finding a structure that works for your life and sticking with it, not perfectly, but consistently. Because even if you miss a day or two, if you generally keep the habit, your brain will continue building those pathways. And here's the beautiful thing. After a few weeks of consistent practice, it stops feeling like work. Your brain starts to expect it. You're waiting in line at the store, and you automatically start narrating what you see. You're in the shower, and you automatically start having an imaginary conversation. The thinking in English becomes the default. I always tell people, the first 2 weeks are the hardest. Your brain is creating new pathways, and it feels effortful. But after 2 weeks, it starts to feel more natural. After a month, it's becoming a real habit. After 3 months, you're going to notice significant changes in your fluency and confidence. So my challenge to you is this. Pick 1 or 2 techniques that resonate with you and commit to doing them daily for 1 month. Just 1 month. Track it if that helps. Write a check mark each day you did your practice and see what happens. I promise you, if you're consistent, you're going to see changes. You're going to feel yourself thinking faster in English. You're going to notice that you don't have to pause and translate anymore. You're going to surprise yourself with how much more natural your English sounds and feels. Let's talk about progress and how to measure it. Because when you're practicing something that's internal and mental, like thinking in English, it can sometimes feel like nothing is happening. You don't see visible results like you might with writing or speaking with someone else. So how do you know you're making progress? First, keep a simple journal. Not for perfect writing, just note what you practiced and how it felt. I narrated my morning routine. It took a while, but I felt more confident than last week. After a month, look back at your notes and you'll probably be amazed at how much easier things feel. Second, pay attention to your thinking speed. At first, thinking in English is slow. You have to consciously form each thought. But as you practice, the speed picks up. You find yourself thinking in English without trying. You find yourself responding to things internally in English automatically. Third, notice when you forget to translate. This is a huge sign of progress. You're in a conversation and suddenly you realize that you weren't translating at all. You were just understanding and responding in English. That's a huge win. Fourth, pay attention to how you sound when you actually speak. Do you hesitate less? Do you sound more confident? Do you find yourself using more complex sentences? These are all signs that your internal thinking is getting stronger. Fifth, notice your dreams. Seriously. A lot of people find that after consistent thinking in English practice, they start having dreams in English. That means your brain is operating in English on a deep level. It's not just your conscious thinking, it's becoming part of how your brain works. Sixth, think about how you feel. Do you feel more confident about speaking English? Does it feel less scary? Are you actually wanting to practice now instead of forcing yourself? These emotional changes are real progress. You don't need formal tests or assessments. Just notice the small changes in how you think and feel about English. I want to address some challenges that people commonly face when they start practicing thinking in English, because I don't want you to run into them and give up. Challenge number 1. It feels unnatural at first. This is completely normal. You're forcing your brain to do something different from what it's used to doing. It feels weird and awkward. That's okay. This feeling passes. Keep going anyway. Your brain is just noticing the change. Eventually, thinking in English will feel natural. Challenge number 2. You forget to do it. Life gets busy and you forget to practice. Or you do the practice one day and then don't do it the next day. What I recommend is building it into a strong habit by attaching it to something you already do. And if you miss a day, just pick it back up. Don't let one missed day turn into never doing it again. Just start again the next day. Challenge number 3, you can't think of anything to narrate or describe. You're looking at your life and thinking, this is boring. There's nothing interesting to describe. But that's not true. There's always something. Maybe the room is quiet, but you can describe the silence. Maybe nobody's talking, but you can describe the feeling of peace. Maybe it's a simple task, but you can describe the steps and your feelings about it. Sometimes the most boring moments are the best practice because you have to find ways to express them. Challenge number 4, you feel silly. You're sitting alone, narrating your life, or having imaginary conversations, and you feel silly. That's okay. I feel silly sometimes too, but I remind myself that I'm alone, nobody is watching, and my future fluent self will thank my present self for doing this. The silly feeling goes away when you focus on how much you're learning. Challenge number 6, you're comparing yourself to native speakers. This is a trap. Native speakers grew up thinking in their language. They have decades of practice. You're an adult learner, and you're learning English as a second language. Your brain is doing something incredibly impressive. Instead of comparing yourself to native speakers, compare yourself to yourself 1 month ago. Are you better? If yes, you're succeeding. Challenge number 7, you don't know enough vocabulary to think about complex things. This is also normal, so start by thinking about simple things: what you're eating, what you're seeing, how you're feeling, what you're doing. As your vocabulary grows, you can think about more complex things, but you don't need complex things to practice. Simple is actually better for building fluency. Now, everything we've talked about is internal thinking, and that's wonderful. But at some point, you probably want to actually speak English with other people, right? And thinking in English is the foundation for that, but it's not the only piece. So let me talk about how to combine your thinking in English practice with actual speaking, because here's what happens. If you've been practicing thinking in English, when you actually speak, it becomes so much easier. You don't have to translate anymore. You don't have to pause and think. You can just speak. Your thinking has prepared the way. The progression looks like this. First, you practice thinking in English alone. Then you start speaking out loud, narrating things, having imaginary conversations out loud. This helps your mouth get used to making the sounds, and your brain gets used to hearing yourself speak. Then you practice speaking in low-pressure situations, like with a language exchange partner or a tutor who is expecting imperfect English. Then you practice in slightly more challenging situations. But the foundation is the thinking. If you've done strong thinking in English work, the speaking part becomes so much easier. Here's what's cool. The thinking practice makes you sound better when you speak. Because you've been thinking about things in real English with real English patterns, your spoken English will naturally reflect that. You won't sound like someone translating. You'll sound like someone thinking. Also, all that internal dialogue you've been doing, you can bring some of it into your actual conversations. When you're talking to someone and you're trying to decide something, you can actually think out loud. Let me think about this. I could do this, or I could do that. I think I like the first option better because you're essentially doing the same thinking out loud that you've been practicing, but now you're doing it with another person. I want to emphasize something really important. There is no one perfect way to do this. The techniques I've given you are just tools. You need to find the tools that work for you and your life and your personality. Some people love narration. Other people find it boring and prefer storytelling. Some people love imaginary conversations. Other people think that's silly. Some people love detailed observation. Other people prefer focusing on emotions and internal dialogue. There's no right answer. What matters is that you find the techniques that you actually enjoy and that you'll actually stick with. Because consistency matters more than intensity. It's better to do a little bit of something you actually enjoy every single day than to do a lot of something you hate and then quit. So I want you to experiment. Try different techniques. See which ones resonate with you. Maybe you love narrating your morning routine but hate imaginary conversations. That's fine. Just do the narration. Maybe you love storytelling but find internal dialogue boring. That's fine. Just tell stories. Also think about your goals and your challenges. If you're someone who gets anxious speaking, maybe focus on building confidence through imaginary conversations. If you're someone who struggles with vocabulary, maybe focus more on observation and narration because that builds descriptive vocabulary. If you're someone who has trouble with grammar, maybe focus on storytelling because that naturally uses different tenses and structures. Make this practice your own. Adapt it to fit your life. Let me paint a picture of what's possible for you if you commit to this practice. I want you to imagine your future self after months of consistent thinking in English practice. You wake up in the morning and your first thoughts are in English. You don't have to force it. It's just natural. You go through your day and your brain is operating in English. You're thinking, deciding, observing, feeling all in English. When you speak English with someone, there's no delay, no translation, no awkwardness. The words just come out because you've been thinking in English all day. You're sitting in a conversation with a native English speaker and you realize you're not translating anymore. You're not thinking in your native language and converting it to English. You're just thinking in English and speaking in English. It's so natural that you don't even notice it happening. You find yourself having dreams in English. You find yourself humming songs in English. You find yourself wanting to practice more because it's not feeling like studying anymore. It's just how your brain operates. You're more confident. You're willing to speak up in group conversations. You're willing to try new things in English. You're willing to take risks because you trust your English. You're not translating cultural references or humor anymore. You get jokes. You understand the subtle nuances of what people are saying. You can participate fully in conversations, not just understand them. And here's something that's less about language, but more about human connection. You're connecting with people more deeply. Because you're thinking in English, you're engaging more authentically with English speakers. You're not standing to the side watching, you're participating fully. This is what's possible. This is what I want for you. All right, so we've talked about a lot of techniques and strategies. Now, let's turn this into an actual action plan that you can implement starting today. First, choose your starting point. Pick one technique that resonates with you. Don't try to do everything at once. Pick one. Maybe it's narration. Maybe it's storytelling. Maybe it's internal dialogue. Whatever excites you most, start there. Second, create a specific habit. When are you going to practice? Morning? During lunch? Before bed? Tie it to something you already do. Every morning while I shower, I narrate my routine. Every lunch break, I do a memory recall of my morning. Every night before bed, I imagine a conversation. Be specific. Third, start small. Don't commit to practicing for 2 hours a day. Commit to 5 or 10 minutes. Small, consistent practice is better than intense practice you can't maintain. Fourth, track it. Get a calendar and mark off each day you do your practice. There's something satisfying about seeing those check marks accumulate. Fifth, be patient. You won't feel dramatically different after a week, but after a month, you'll notice changes. After 3 months, you'll be shocked. Sixth, add more techniques gradually. After you've established one habit solidly, add another one. Maybe after 2 weeks of narration, you add imaginary conversations, but build gradually. Seventh, adjust as you go. If something isn't working, change it. If you hate narration, stop doing it. Try something else. The goal is to find a practice you'll actually do consistently. We've covered so much in this episode. We've talked about understanding how your brain works. We've talked about labeling your world, narrating your life, having internal dialogue, describing your environment, creating imaginary conversations, building stories, recalling your memories, making decisions, expressing emotions, using technology, building vocabulary, handling mistakes, creating consistency, measuring progress, overcoming challenges, combining thinking with speaking, personalizing your path, and creating your action plan. But I want to leave you with one core message. Thinking in English is not some rare, special ability that only gifted people have. It's a skill that anyone can develop. It's just a matter of practice and consistency. Your brain is capable of so much more than you think. It's capable of rewiring itself. It's capable of creating new pathways. It's capable of operating fluently in a language you didn't speak natively. You just have to give it the practice it needs. The journey of becoming fluent in English is not about studying harder or memorizing more vocabulary. It's about training your brain to think differently. It's about building new habits. It's about patience and consistency. And I promise you, if you do this work, if you practice these techniques consistently, you're going to get there. You're going to become fluent. You're going to feel confident. You're going to stop translating in your head. You're going to think and speak in English naturally. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through this journey. I'm so excited for you and what's coming. You've got this. Keep thinking in English. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next episode.